let's talk about Cornel West and also talk about what's happening to Joe Biden. Basically, he's not doing so well in the polls, and now that Dr. West is in the race, along with RFK, they try to put him down. That's because they know he's doing well. 20% out of the primaries, and then you got Cornel West polling at 6% in the general. Spells all bad for a person that can barely speak because of his cognitive decline. So let's listen to this video here. This has been curated by Case Study QB. Shout out Case Study. This is CNN talking about Cornel West.
Mayor Bottoms, when you talk about the situation, obviously you've got Joe Manchin and Jonah mentioned RFK Jr., who's running in the primaries, but you've got a Green Party candidate who's going to be on that final ballot, right? I mean, that's the way it goes. The Green Party is a party. Cornel West. David Axelrod was saying he's worried about Cornel West. He believes that could cost Biden dearly, right? You just have to siphon off a few thousand votes in a few states. Do you worry that a progressive African-American candidate is going to appeal more to Black voters who have been cooling to Biden in recent polls? We see it in recent polls. Support for Biden among African Americans dropped from 84% in 2021. It's down to 56% early.
So this is the poll I was referencing. I was off my numbers. I think I said 86 and 53 or something like that. So I was off a little bit. But this is the poll that shows a decline, a near 30%. Was that 28? Yeah, 28% decline. And Black Biden approval numbers, which is shocking to them because, again, this is an indication that this may not be enough for them to win, or this is not enough for them to win. They literally, the 80s, when they were in the 80s at that time, they were saying that was low because it's typically they want it to be around 92%.
Right.
But they're saying this is low in the 80s, and now they wish they were in the 86s at this point. But anybody want to chime in here on this particular poll?
I would even argue 56%. Someone said in the chat that seems high to me.
That does seem high to me too. That does seem high to me too. And I'm talking about the people that are invested in politics, because again, 51% of Black people, or 50 plus people, percent of Black people don't even participate in electoral politics if you're looking at the entire population. But this seems a little high, even of the ones that's participating, because the conversations in the barbershops and the salons,
right,
in Black spaces, this not at all saying anything good about Joe Biden. I don't see it at all. And these are people that are liberal. These aren't even radical people that I'm talking about in the spaces that I go to. I don't hear anybody sort of talking in good language about Joe Biden. So
yeah, I mean, what happened between September 2021? I was saying, like, what happened between September 2021 and May 2023 that would have really impacted their
what happened?
What happened? Like, I mean,
the pandemic.
Maybe the pandemic. Maybe maybe World War III, maybe something happened.
Maybe the idea that he promised. Maybe the idea that he promised HBCU students student loan debt cancellation, and that's
true.
Where's that? That might have something to do with it.
Oh too. Yeah, the voting rights. Now we're not necessarily for the voting rights, but for what they were trying to project. Oh, we got this voting rights. They wouldn't even do that. They wouldn't even kill the filibuster for that. So there is a lot of disappointment, even in the liberal world. Not even people who will be radical like us. So, but let's listen a little more to this clip. We're about 25% of the way through. Let's listen. Now, what I did want to add here, you see the question asked, should we be afraid? They keep doing these segments where, should we be afraid? And it's like, maybe they're either saying no or a little bit. Now, for me, it's not a coincidence they're asking this Black lady, this particular Black lady, this question, so she can come in and be like, no, you don't have to be afraid. So let's listen to what her reaction is, and then we will respond after.
in recent polls. Support for Biden among African Americans dropped from 84% in 2021. It's down to 56% earlier this year. I mean, that's a stunning plunge.
Yeah, I'm more concerned, Erin, about African American voters and voters in general staying at home than I am about a third party candidate. It's not ideal. Obviously, every single vote will matter. But what we are seeing are voters are becoming increasingly unhappy with elected officials. That's not particular to President Biden. But again, I believe that when the policies are focused on in the midst of a campaign, when people are reminded of how the American Rescue Plan Fund sent money to cities in Atlanta, it stopped us from having to furlough city employees. It allowed us to do things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. When these type policies, I think, are put in front of the voters at the height of a campaign, I'm less concerned about a third party candidate. Do I wish that there were not a
So this the age old, just remind them what all the good stuff we've done for you sort of play, which to me, I don't know how that ever works to have to, you get what I'm saying? If what you're doing is a positive effect on me, I'm feeling it. I don't need to be told anything opposite. But if I'm feeling like I'm not ahead, that things are too expensive, reminding me of some legislation that obviously is not affecting me positively, I don't get how that helps them, and why do they think that's a good strategy?
This is Keisha Lance. I almost didn't recognize who she was, but it's in.
Wait, that's Keisha Lance. That's Keisha Lance brother?
Yeah, I almost didn't recognize her, but she has no right talking. Like, Cop City is happening in your city, girl. Like, you have no right to talk.
I did not recognize her. Yeah, of course she's gonna say something like this,
and of course they're gonna put her on the panel.
Yeah,
they're not gonna put somebody like India Moore,
Sabby, or India Moore, yeah.
Oh, India Watson from India Moore is a great actor. India Moore Watson from Buffalo, who was
Buffalo, yeah.
Out, she was the Democratic nominee, and the establishment went with the center right mayor who had lost the primary. They won't have her on. But I think there's a couple of things that need to be laid out, what they're missing or on purpose not saying. I'm not sure which, because they do have blinders, right? So sometimes they just don't see it, but sometimes they see it and ignore it on purpose, like with Cornel West. The thing that I think is important to note is that, okay, so say the poll is correct. It is as high as 56% of the whatever the Black community they're going to call those that they polled approve of Biden. That is historically low for a Democrat, and that spells trouble. That's like he's approaching Pete Buttigieg numbers, like he's going down, dropping 30, who's a vile racist, Pete Buttigieg. He just, the way he treated Black people in in Indiana. But here's the thing. The thing they're ignoring is a lot. In 2016, this happened. I brought this up last time I was on. Historically, significantly lower voter turnout in mostly Black districts for the presidential election in 2016. They stayed home because, as some said that were interviewed in that article about Milwaukee, where they said, neither one does anything for us. Why should I bother voting? So there is that. And why would they think it? And it's if the Democrats are going to trot out Biden's accomplishments, what we need to do is, and I hope Cornel West can do this as well, is list the things the Democrats could have done but decided not to. So let's go to student loans, because yes, SCOTUS sucks. We have a horrible Supreme Court right now. It never should have come to that. Are people going to focus on the fact that in the debt ceiling negotiations, which were completely unnecessary, they did not have to happen, Democrats with the majority could have codified into law a massive debt ceiling that they know that they're never going to go over in the next 20 years. So we never needed to have this, that the government would always be fully funded. They decided not to do it. Their reason, Dick Durbin said this, was we're too busy. We have other things to do. This is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then why does that matter? Because in the debt ceiling negotiations, Joe Biden bargained away the student debt pause, knowing full well the Supreme Court may overturn it. So now he can't even say, listen, I don't agree with the court's ruling. It's horrible, but I'm going to extend the pause to the end of my presidency. And if you reelect me, I'm going to keep extending it. That's 6 more years. He could do it.
Or even now, he could say, pay student loans, but no interest.
Right.
At bare minimum.
Do both those things. He could have done that. It was in his power not to bargain that away. Why does this matter, or should it, or could it matter to Black voters? Because Black Americans are more likely to drop out of a 4-year college because of cost. They can't afford it because whether it's books or living or whatever, these are widely presented statistics. It affects women. It affects marginalized populations like Black Americans. So he could have done it and didn't. What else could they have done? Anything Democrats wanted to do that has to do with the budget, Medicare for all, or even the stupid public option, a living wage of at least 15, but I think we should say this later. We need to start never saying the word 15 anymore. We are demanding 25 or 30 and bargaining down to 25. They could have done that through reconciliation. Reconciliation requires zero Republican votes. If Biden wanted to whip his party and corral them to push his agenda, he would have done everything in his power to get Manchin and Sinema, who was a Democrat at the time, Sinema, online. They could have carved out the filibuster for the minimum wage. They could have carved out the filibuster for the Voting Rights Act. Are you going to tell me Manchin and Sinema aren't going to be able to be corralled at least on the Voting Rights Act? He didn't do it. The Democrats don't care about Black voters, and let it not be lost on people that so many Americans, poor Americans, and members of the Black community have been disenfranchised from voting because of Joe Biden's white supremacist bill of 1994. All they needed to do was carve out the filibuster to allow voting rights to be a simple majority with Kamala Harris as the tie vote. They knew they had the power and decided not to because they don't want to do it.
Right.
We can go down the list of things Democrats could have after the Supreme Court knocked down the CDC's extension of the eviction moratorium. The CDC said if Congress passes a law, that's fine, but the CDC doesn't have the purview to do this. Democrats didn't even put it up for a vote because key Democrats are paid off by the commercial real estate lobby and did not want, and the full real estate lobby did not want to extend the eviction moratorium. It would have lost in the House, not the Senate, on a vote when Democrats had full control of the House. We can go down the list. So my question is, why would anybody in a marginalized group vote for Joe Biden or a Democrat when we can go down the list of all the things Democrats could have done, should have done? And one other example, East Palestine. Now that's a mostly white area. Their lives have been ruined. Their entire town was victimized by a company that, according to reporting, and whoever reports it good, I thank them. Jordan Sheridan from Status Quo has done some excellent on-the-ground reporting in East Palestine. And he's interviewed people and dug into why is it they did this so-called controlled burn. And the answer is they didn't need to do it. It wasn't controlled. which was a really big thing that he came out with. They just haphazardly burned it, and they knew that it was poison. They did it to quickly get the trains running so they didn't lose money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg together have control, have enough power where they could put regulations in place without Congress that would have will prevent another East Palestine train derailment disaster from happening. They could do that. They're not. They punted to Congress knowing the Republicans were taking over soon. This is probably not going to happen. If it does, it'll be extremely watered down. So we can go down the list of every point where Democrats could have acted, had the power to act, should have acted, and decided not to, and did not even need the Republicans to do it. So my question is, why would any marginalized group or group affected by their horrendous policies even think of voting for them? And that's not discussed. The case against the Democrats is that, I think, to sum it up, Joe Biden is the face of it. They are a feckless, false opposition to the Republicans. When Democrats have power, they never use it, unless it's to raise the military budget, to give $37 billion more to police. This mayor of Atlanta, Bottoms, to allow Cop City to go through. They'll use their power to do horrible things that hurt the working class, hurt the Black community, but they never stick their neck out. What they will do is run on all these things again. So just for people to recap this, it's important that they get it. Nothing the Democrats say now matters for two reasons. They had 2 years in the majority to get anything done that they wanted to get done, and they could have. They could have extended that child tax credit permanently. They could have made that permanent. They decided not to. That was a democratically written bill. Now that the Republicans are in charge of the House, nothing of a progressive agenda is going to get through. So anything Democrats say about what they want to do now, it's a lie, because they can't do it. They had 2 years and they blew it. And then if they're saying they're going to do it, notice what they're not saying. Don't believe them, because campaign promises are bullshit. Democrats prove to us they will lie to get votes from marginalized communities. I will give you free community college, and then, sorry, you don't get free community college. I'll give you a public option. By the way, another Black issue, Black Americans are more likely to be uninsured than white Americans. Where's Medicare for all? We're not even going to talk about it. The squad's not even mentioning it anymore. So notice, though, they're not saying if we win in 2024, if we win the White House and you give us a solid majority, we will raise your wage. And the last thing I'll say about the wage is they've done polling in the past few months showing that a solid majority of Americans, including Republicans, believe the minimum wage should be well over $20 an hour. In fact, most Democrats, or a significant amount of Democrats, think it should be $28 an hour. A significant number of Republicans think it should be $25 an hour. Democrats aren't promising any of that. So why would anyone vote for them?
I don't get it. I don't get why people still are supporting them, but it is our job to keep pointing that fact out. Let me play a little more, but it puts into context that we now know who this is. I mean, I see it on the screen, but I was just listening to the answer. I didn't even pay attention to the name. Keisha Lance Bottom, Cop City sort of started under her when she was running the city. So she is terrible to be answering this question. But this is the Black people they want to answer this question that will make sure they give a right answer. So let's finish out her answer. 20 more seconds.
A third party candidate, certainly. Cornel West has a lot of respect, not just in the African American community, but across the country. So do I wish that he were not a candidate? I certainly do, because we know that the margins will be thin, but I'm still very confident that President Biden will be reelected.
Yeah. All right. So let's move to the next video. Go ahead if somebody wanted to chime in before this next video.
She had to say that with the straightest of face and just like monotonous robot, just being like, I am confident that President Joe Biden will win. And